right. Hey guys, if you can hear me, go ahead and share that link. I'm going to take it out of the waiting room in a second here. Sorry. So I have something new, but you know, it's something new. I definitely appreciate all the support I can get. Getting as many viewers as possible in the live stream. Sorry about that, guys. Let me go ahead and duck the audio way down, that background audio. Thanks, Fadad, for letting me know. I have to manually do that for this one, but thank you so much for sharing the link. Thanks for letting other people know that we are live right now. I'm going to go ahead and bring us back to a normal desktop presentation and get the video started in like 2 seconds. I'm using my Linux laptop, so there are a couple of things that I need to change that aren't normally a consideration. So thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for being patient. I'll probably just put a link after this is all done. I'll put a link to where the video begins when we actually go live on this one. Alrighty guys, and we are live. Thank you so much for being tuned in. Fadad, I see you in the chat. Anybody else who is who's tuning into the chat, go ahead and say hello. If you don't mind, say hello so that I know you're there. I've got a chat window open that isn't passing through right now. It's an invisible chat window. It's kind of a cool thing about OBS and cool thing about the windowing system on Linux. I'm going to go ahead and make that full screen there, but also pop open a window for myself that I can see. So I can interact with the chat and not have too much difficulty. Pretty awesome stuff. You guys can't see it, but I've got a chat window pinned right on top of all the other windows. And so I see that within OBS or within my desktop view and have everything that I need at the ready, right at my fingertips. Tonight's episode is sponsored by MindYour.biz. We have all kinds of neck gaiters and masks, especially if you live in an area where various lockdown procedures have affected you and your family. Maybe the kids are going back to school right now. I know mine are, and it's a little bit tricky, right? Figuring out exactly what the requirements are from the school district versus the state versus the county versus the city. There are a lot of things that are still up in the air, especially here in the United States, where we're finding various outbreaks in various small areas, kind of unexpected in some cases. And in some cases, as you know, it's not stuff that we have direct control over. You can call it a pandemic if you want to. I respect your right to call it whatever you want. The First Amendment applies to you. And hey, if you're visiting from another country, guess what? The First Amendment, it applies to you as well as a visitor. We'll protect your right to say whatever you want about COVID-19 or about any of the current events within the world. But here, my kids have to wear a mask to go to school. And my kids need to go to school for a couple of days out of the week. We need that break, their mom and I. So if you're in a similar boat and you want your kids to rep Bitcoin, Ethereum, various crypto projects, or right here, folding at home, awesome one right there. This guy's wearing the caffeine molecule on top of a sort of cafe au lait color right there. We have all kinds of merch that's related to that. And then, of course, shop.mindyour.biz, rather, mindyour.biz/shop. All kinds of other stuff as well, not just donations, but bucket hats, dad caps, windbreakers, and of course beanies and or toques rather. Our friends from the north out in Canada call it. As the weather starts to turn, as we get into autumn and we move towards winter, we have all kinds of clothing that's appropriate for that as well. Let's talk about the main topic for tonight. And the thing that brought it up was this article right here. And I saw this on Shane DK. Thank you so much, Shane, for bringing this up on your channel. I thought it was really interesting, this topic of a moral foundation that people might have. Like, what drives people to make the decisions that they make? How do people come up with a moral value system? How do people make the decisions to, for example, intervene when they see somebody else being harmed in the middle of the street? Or if they see a couple maybe having a heated argument out in public, do they decide to step in? What would govern decisions like that? What drives people to make either Good Samaritan type decisions or the decision to refrain from intervening when they see something wrong with the world? What causes people to say, I won't abide that, but you know what? It's okay if somebody, whatever, hits a cat with their car and then takes off without trying to find the owner and notify them. That got me really curious. And it got me curious a little bit more for a short time in college. Like so many others, I began to study psychology. It's been forever now, but personality theory I thought was rather interesting, right? What determines how people will be and whether or not they'll repeat certain decisions and what the criteria is for repeating certain decisions over the long haul. So it got me thinking about a couple things. Found this article related to that, and it really got me thinking about this track, right? The dark core of personality. So Scott Barry Kaufman, cool graphic, right? By the way, scary looking eyeball there, side lighting, way recessed. Person looks angry. It's probably a super nice guy too, but great model, right? Great eyeball model. And talk about intelligence and sort of general intelligence. Spatiotemporal intelligence is a really big one. So if you can teach a kid to catch and throw a ball, especially a young man to catch and throw a ball, chances are they have enough intelligence to be able to do other useful tasks. You can get them to do other useful tasks with a fairly high degree of dexterity and skill, right? It's very likely that they'll be able to contribute meaningfully in the world. I think a really good example of this is in the armed forces of the United States. And there are some minimum thresholds for somebody who may be of below average IQ to be able to enlist in the armed forces. And I think it's really telling that cognitive ability, specifically when it comes to spatiotemporal awareness, being able to keep one's head on a swivel, being able to catch something that's thrown at them literally in the world, that kind of translates somewhat into somebody conceptually being able to capture info that's sent their way, whether it's visual or auditory or or written word, whatever else. So kind of interesting that, yeah, we're going on 100 years of this intense study of intelligence, right? Uh, Oh man, okay. I'm seeing some stuff in the live chat. Faded talking about stepping in, being good Samaritan. Yeah, it doesn't always pay. That's the thing, right? Stepping in as a good Samaritan, it really doesn't always pay, or it pays in, in hands, right? Catching hands, knuckle sandwiches, and it's tough to know when it is the right time. But what has me curious is what governs a person's decision. Now, what I know about Faded is that he's a generally good dude, and he won't abide the mistreatment of other people. That much is obvious. I'm looking at his media. We haven't hung out or whatever. We don't, we're not, we don't live close enough to go like grab lunch or something and talk about it in person. But it's pretty obvious in seeing the way he conducts himself that's something that matters to him. So I was really curious. In this article that I'm bringing up right now, they talk about within personality, there is a D factor and that it's correlated. It's positively correlated with intelligence. So the greater intelligence somebody has or cognitive ability somebody has, potentially the greater propensity to do evil. Not propensity, rather capability to do evil and to have dark traits. It's kind of interesting. And they go further to explore certain links, certain characteristics that might be of concern there. I'm not going to go that far, but let's get point number 3 here, right? We talked about the moral foundations test, so thank you again, Shane DK, for that. Talking about this article, which I won't bring to its conclusion. Put a link to that in the description or in the comments right here, live comments, so you can see that. Same with the moral foundations test, so you can take this. This is in the description of the video, but I'll put that in our current live chat as well, so you can follow along with me if you'd like, and we can talk about our results together. But the last point that really interested me, NeuraLink, right? NeuraLink was just announced, rather, not just announced, but progress on NeuraLink was demonstrated. Elon Musk showed it on a pig. And first, I mean, it wasn't without talking a lot first, right? But then they demonstrated very clearly that they had a couple of test subjects and a control subject, one pig that had no NeuraLink installed, and then another one that had a NeuraLink installed and then removed to be able to just to show clearly to the audience that was there in person, anybody that was watching it on the live stream, that no harm came to this animal after having had tiny electrodes placed in its brain and a little flap of skin pulled off to the side and a little coin-sized chunk of their skull removed for the NeuraLink base unit to sit in, with the little electrodes reaching into the brain, and then having a wireless link from that device over to some sensory equipment, some sensing equipment, and then a third pig that was brought on stage that had an active NeuraLink device installed, and then seeing it rooting around and hearing these beeps that corresponded to the time when the pig's snout was either touching the ground or came in contact with what it positively identified as food. Just really interesting, really cool video. So definitely recommend that you watch that entirely if you're interested. As you can see right now, I'm going to go ahead and place that in our chat as well. So cool device, and it brings up a lot of questions regarding personality. Can it affect personality? Now, clearly it's not on the frontal lobe, right? Not on the frontal cortex, where we generally understand personality to reside in the brain. Frontal lobotomy, ever hear of that? Or you've probably just heard it called a lobotomy, but it's a frontal lobotomy. You take out the frontal lobe or portions of it by scraping it. Creepy stuff, but our existence is so fragile, man, right? Like if you were to trip and fall really hard, you could damage yourself, and that could wind up affecting your personality. It's not comfortable to think about very much, but all of this is very delicate. Not just life, but our experience of it. And all this kind of got me thinking about it even more, that I really needed to take this moral foundations test, and I wanted to do that live with you guys. So that was a really long preamble. I appreciate you guys being patient with me. So moral foundations test, it's here by IDR Labs on idrlabs.com/morality/6/test.php. And It's available internationally in localized languages from across the globe, as you can see. So it says moral foundations test. Social scientists such as Ravi Lyer and Jonathan Haidt. Oh, Dan, hello. Thank you for saying hello in the chat. I missed that before. Appreciate that. And yeah, no, Dan makes a comment about the interface to the brain looking very benign, and I totally agree. I think the only questions that it brings up for me is what will be the implications moving forward in terms of personality? Can it affect personality? There are people who genuinely suffer from personality disorders, such as borderline personality disorder or such as narcissistic personality disorder. Will any of this sort of thing or other, we might characterize them as learning modalities or learning disorders or some other issues that could be more broadly classified as personality disorders. Things like, having massive mood swings, right? We used to call it manic depressive, right? Or bipolar disorder. And it's becoming destigmatized, and that's great. But at the same time, if we know that devices like the NeuraLink are coming out, what will that affect? Stuff like that. They were talking about, over time, being able to cure blindness, right? And being able to help people who are paralyzed, paraplegics and quadriplegics, being able to walk again. It's pretty nuts, pretty crazy stuff. Yankee's in the chat. Good to see you, brother. And he's asking if I'm talking about him. Yes, borderline personality disorder. This is a problem in some states, Yankee. Okay. I don't know if my sarcasm is showing. I'm delivering this kind of dry, but whatever. So guys, the moral foundations test I figured would be a really good place for you to get to know your yours truly just a little bit better. Produced a lot of media regarding cryptocurrencies and a bunch of other stuff, but as you know, we've interviewed a lot of very intelligent people on this channel. You might even say that they're wicked intelligent. The question is, are they more intelligent than wicked, or are they more wicked than intelligent? And I think it's pretty important for people to be able to go through certain kinds of questions and try to answer as genuinely as possible and try to let people know what they're actually about, as opposed to saying, yeah, I'm all about decentralization. And then all of a sudden they give you ref links to centralized services. Or I'm all about privacy. And all of a sudden they ask you to dox to go to a KYC exchange. This is recent also, right? Somebody who's kind of been culturally canceled lately is a poor guy, Jameson Lopp, right? He's within the Bitcoin space. He's being affectionately called Jameson LARP, right, by a lot of other people in the space, because he has been endorsing a brand new project that requires KYC. But he's this old school kind of self-described cypherpunk dude who's all about CoinJoin and data privacy and using Bitcoin as anonymously and privately as possible. I just think that, I don't know. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Is it okay if I take this test, you guys? Because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this test live. So, Dan brings up a really good point in the chat as well, and I do want to riff on this a little bit, just because this NeuraLink announcement, the demonstration is so cool. The announcement was interesting. The demonstration was, it was awesome, right? It was awesome. We saw it working. We saw that something actually happened, and it wasn't in a human test subject, whatever. We saw it implanted in a living being that wasn't harmed, and there was no detrimental effects to this living being. It's only a matter of time before we see a demonstration like this on a human. But Dan asks, he says that I imagine this tech, or can imagine this tech, enabling silent communication with counselors/AI counselors could be helpful for mental illness. That may be true over time. It may also be true. One of the people that was there talking on stage with Elon Musk, so one of his right hand or left hand peeps, actually it was this dude. That was a perfect jump right there. This dude right here mentioned that he likes the concept of telepathy, and dolphins, frankly, just with an echolocation and some of their body language, they communicate not non-verbally, but they communicate with a lot less verbal interaction than humans do, apparently. If that's to be believed. So imagine being able to communicate fully telepathically. And this guy brought that up. This sort of technology could totally enable that. You figure we already communicate a lot through context in emoji using text messages and messaging platforms. So really, how hard would it be for us to be able to communicate something like that entirely silently, looking off axis, but sending an emoji to somebody else? And then contextually, I send you some kind of smirking emoji or Lamau emoji, right? Raffle emoji, and I just cock my head to one side while staring at something that I find humorous, you're going to get it, right? You're totally going to get it. Granted, we can already kind of do that, right? There's so much we can already indicate just with body language and context. So being able to add to that, even really low resolution emotes, right? Like telepathic emotes and telepathic words to each other. It's going to change the game, right? And those who can process things like that faster they're going to have that force multiplier in the world, being able to communicate on that front. So what Dan is talking about in the comments here about potentially being able to consult with some kind of an AI that maybe senses that we have negative mental patterns or negative thought patterns. Maybe it's a pattern interrupt that helps save lives. That could be a really cool thing, honestly. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but yeah, if your phone did have, or something close by had some way of talking you down, right, when your emotions run really high, that'd be awesome, man. If people could be a little bit better emotionally well regulated. So yeah. So yeah, we got all kinds of considerations there. Dan bringing up security. The team brought it up in this video, and I posted that in the live stream or live chat for a reason, because they really do bring up a lot in the Q&A at the end. It's pretty great in terms of security and data privacy and everything else. I mean, it would absolutely have to be. That's the biggest consideration, right? I mean, on every other platform in the world, look at Twitter, for crying out loud. It was hacked only weeks ago. We've stopped talking about it so much, but every single account, barring, minus Donald Trump's account, was compromised. And the only reason his wasn't compromised is because there were already special safeguards in place due to a security threat from not that long before. I mean, had that not happened, had that not taken place, his account would have been compromised as well. So, and I know that it's a different type of attack that was executed there. My point is that it was still possible. So imagine that, I'm with you. It's a very frightening thought to think that somebody without your consent, without any kind of warning, could literally take up residence inside your head. That's creepy. So back to the moral foundations test. I guess maybe this is proof of me not being a sociopath. Maybe it's not proof. So I'll prepare for all the unsubscribes now. But right here, question 1 of 36, just 36 questions, says Tom and Linda have been dating for almost a year since they've never agreed to be exclusive. Tom, first off, I should mention my wife is sitting right across the table from me, so you need to know I know that I'm being observed. Right? Behavior changes when a person knows they're being observed. Now my wife is staring at me like I'm in trouble if I say the wrong thing, right? So, but I'm being observed, and I know I'm being observed, and that affects people's behavior, right? But my wife and I have a pretty good relationship. She knows where the bodies are buried, and if I asked, she would help me bury more. Oh, all right. It says Tom and Linda have been dating for almost a year since they've never agreed to be exclusive. Tom sleeps with other women without telling Linda. Okay or not okay? Well, I'm a little old-fashioned. This is just I guess it's just the example question right there. All right. So I'm old-fashioned, guys. That's all the way on that side of the chart. When Carl's soccer team is squaring off against the team of another nation, he sings along to the other team's national anthem instead of his own. Oh, totally in place of? Oh, man, that's a tough one, right? I don't know. Is soccer a federally subsidized program like American football? Probably not. And I wonder if there's any kind of penalty. I don't see a big problem with that, but I'm also not going to go all the way to the okay side because I think it's more nuanced than that. So say it's kind of okay. Hannah inherited an old flag of her country from her father, but has never used it. One day, when Hannah is cleaning the house, she discovers that she is out of rags, so she uses the flag as a rag to clean the house. I'm going to say that's probably not okay. I think it is, and I'm going to put it not quite at the fully not okay area, but I'm going to put it just not okay. Because I do think that it's all right to imbue certain inanimate objects with sentimental value, especially when it comes from a family member. Case in point, if my dad had preserved a very old version of the Cuban flag before the republic, or rather before the Cuban government changed from the Batista government into Castro's Cuba, which happened after he left. But if you had a vintage flag from Cuba, I'd want to keep it nice, even though I don't want to live in Cuba, and I definitely don't believe in their politics today. I definitely don't endorse the political actions of Cuban leaders. I'd still want to hang on to that flag to preserve a little piece of history and to preserve a little piece of culture, right, within my family. So I'm just going to say that's not okay. I think it takes something away from humanity when we treat other people's keepsakes as garbage. Brian does not cooperate with law enforcement. Whenever he is pulled over, he refuses to answer questions and starts bickering with the officer about his rights. This is very generalized. This is very generalized. And I think it's intended to create a caricature of Brian, because I'm mixed on this issue. I think it's if there are some people who draw a really hard line regarding answering the questions of law enforcement, which is different from disobeying a lawful order of law enforcement. Here in the United States, at least, very different from disobeying a lawful order. You can obey a lawful order of law enforcement without answering questions. And the Fifth Amendment within the Bill of Rights protects every citizen's ability to do that. They don't have to answer questions. That said, it's kind of dumb to not answer questions and then pipe up about your rights. So they're creating a caricature of somebody who's not very educated here. So I'm going to say it's not okay because they're dumb, but I'm not going to slide that one all the way off to the left. And question 5, using both a condom and the pill, a brother and a sister decide that they want to sleep with each other. Just once to see what it would be like. Yikes. I wish I could unsee this. Where's the eye bleach? Not okay. Scott is hosting a dinner party. For dessert, he serves chocolate cake shaped to look like dog poop. Not only is this okay, this is awesome. An Army lieutenant neglects to file a report on a civilian killing done by his troops because he knows it was an accident. Yeah, Faded, buddy, sorry. I should have. Next time, eye bleach on me, guys. Eye bleach on me. Pretend, think of unicorns and rainbows. I pop that text size up just a little bigger. Army lieutenant neglects to file a report on a civilian killing done by his troops because he knows it was an accident. Hey, Dan, thanks for saying goodbye in the comment section. We'll catch you next time. And I'm just going to say that's not okay. That's not a judgment call, at least in that organizational structure, not a judgment call for him to make. Whether it was an accident or not, the report needs to be filed so that others know it happened. So if a civilian killing, the civilians who were affected by that, family, friends, neighbors, law enforcement in that area, the local, state, and federal government of the occupied territory, wherever it is they were, they need to know what happened. And so that lieutenant, it's called negligence for a reason, because somebody neglected. And that could very well be criminal negligence. So not okay. The principal of a school. By the way, this is also why I don't know. I struggle. It's not a job that I'd want to have, and I'm not somebody who who wants to give people who go into the military or who go into law enforcement professionally a really hard time by saying, well, you're propping up a corrupt system and you're terrible. You're part of the problem. Yes, there are systemic problems that arise from over authoritarian regimes, but man, don't hate the player, hate the game, I guess. Principal of a school says that none of her students are allowed to draw Muhammad on the school premises or to bring Muhammad cartoons to school. Now, in the United States, this is a gross violation of the First Amendment, depending on the circumstances. That said, if you want to participate at the school, I mean, you can always talk to the principal, but I don't think this is okay. I don't think this is okay. And here's why. Yeah, I'm not going to bring it all the way to the far left, but I don't think it's okay. Here's why. There are so many other religions that various different school administrators would absolutely be okay with laughing at or laughing with their students regarding a joke. Scientology, for example, has been the butt of so many jokes. There are intensely conservative Christians, right? Conservative Christian groups that are made fun of and lampooned in pop culture. And then, of course, if you have any friends who are of Jewish descent or who are are of the Jewish faith, some of my best friends in the area where I grew up who were Jewish were the first to laugh at jokes and be self-deprecating. And I mean, I don't know. I think too hardline a stance when it comes to something that is humorous, I think causes problems. Julie asks her friends not to fraternize with her ex-boyfriend Jake since he cheated on her with other women. 3 weeks later, Julie's friend Melissa is dating him. Probably not okay. Probably not okay, but at the same time, he cheated on her with other women. Here's the thing. I get the sense, based on the description so far, the women that she was cheated on were probably her other friends. Yeah. I think, group dynamics are pretty crazy. And when it comes to the power struggle between people regarding relationships, like, this stuff is crazy, right? Like, you've seen this firsthand. We've all had that friend, right, who just couldn't seem to get their poop in a group. And it's like, man, get your relationship in gear. Don't, have some self-esteem, right? Just don't let yourself get into relationships where somebody else is treating you like garbage. And clearly, Julie's got this problem. So, and I'm not even sure which side they're asking is okay or not okay. There's a problem here, right? So I'm sure they mean at the end, right? Julie's friend Melissa dating, but I'm going to say it's probably not okay that she told her friends not to fraternize with Jake. If she had to say that, then there's a massive problem. If she actually had to tell them that, there's a problem. Then I guess, for Julie's friend Melissa to date him, I mean, I'm gonna slide that over towards the okay area. And it might sound crazy, but I'm gonna slide it over towards the okay area. If Julie actually had to go so far out of her way to say that, then something's really not right. She needed to just not date the guy, and just grow a spine when her friend Melissa starts to date the guy. If he had cheated on her, she needed to cut things off way earlier, right? So I'm gonna say it's okay for Melissa to date the guy. And it's also okay for Julie to just say, hey, we're not friends anymore because I respect myself, right? If the roles were reversed, a dude just saying like, all right, so you want to go date this person, that's cool, but I mean, if they cheated on me with you, we're not friends anymore. Don't be like that. Sarah gets drunk in a bar and makes out with 2 strangers at once. When you add alcohol to the mix, you mess up a lot of the morality. You really do, right? Sure, people say that it doesn't make you something you're not. It makes you more of something you already are. It makes you less inhibited, so you make decisions you were already inclined to make. I don't know if I believe all that. I can inject you with sodium pentothal, and I can make you more of what you already are. Substances matter. Context matters. But I'm just going to say, like, wholesale, the behavior, I'm just going to say fine, whatever, fine, okay. But the foundational problem there is that Sarah needs to not get drunk, right? If this is something that can be brought to her attention, hey, Sarah, stop getting smashed because you keep on doing stuff that makes you hard to date. When a homeless man asks Matt for spare change, Matt keeps on walking and says, "Don't talk to me, loser. Don't talk to me, loser. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me, loser." Not okay. Matt doesn't need to reinforce that. If there's somebody on the corner asking him for spare change, they probably know pretty well what tier of society they dwell in. They probably don't need Matt in all of his infinite wisdom to let them know they're a loser. So, not okay. Matt, why don't you try not being a loser? A man orders a custom-built sex doll designed to look just like his niece. Again, where's the eye bleach? Categorically not okay. GTFO from my life forever. Please. John's soccer coach decides that everyone on the team must wear black soccer shoes, but on the day of the match, John turns up in white soccer shoes instead. Oh dear. Well, John's soccer coach, has anybody ever told you that John is colorblind? Yeah. Checkmate, loser. I'm just kidding. Now it's totally appropriate to say it. But the reality is, no, socially, if the kid didn't get the memo, whatever, I guess. But, it's a game. It's also just a game. Though it doesn't say what age they are. And it is a team sport. The uniformity is supposed to be a good thing. Yeah, he did step over a social boundary here. I just find this to be so trivial. So I'm going to say it's not okay, but only the tiniest little bit. And we'll move on. Adam and Beth have been dating for 3 years. Adam is reluctant to have children, so Beth tells him that she's on the pill when she isn't. Dang! That's life-altering. I'm going to say it's not okay. And I'm going to put that far over into the not okay category because people talk about a woman's right to choose. That's okay. But if she doesn't inform this man and the consent for sex takes place without his consent for childbearing, without his knowledge at all, that's kind of like, I mean, it's not the legal definition of rape, but it's just as heinous, right? It's just as heinous. If she's trying to get this guy on the hook for what will possibly just wind up being child support, not really marriage, right? I mean, what's this guy going to do? Be like, oh, you tricked me into having kids. Well, awesome. Totally. Let's have that happily ever after together now because, because I can trust you so much. What does she think is going to be? What does she think is going to happen there? Totally not okay. Not well thought out at all. Not intelligent. Not okay. A Christian bakery refuses to custom decorate a cake with chocolate letters that would carry a pro-gay message. Message. Again, all of this I look at through the lens of American values. And it's different. People will say that there is a human rights violation at stake in a situation like this. I don't view it that way. I view it as a denial of service, which is different. It's a denial of a private service, not a public utility. Now, if he ran the public restroom at the park and said, you know what? I'm not going to let you graffiti your pro-gay message in this public bathroom, but I will let you graffiti whatever Cletus was here on the wall. Yeah, that's an oddly specific example. But it's more obviously a public utility, right? Not a private service. So I think when it comes to a private service, yeah, totally. I'm not going to say it's categorically okay. Lots of nuance here, a whole lot of nuance here. But I'm going to say when it comes to denying a private service, come on, man. I'm going to use the hypothetical to help reinforce this, lest, before I start being called a bigot in the comments section, because that's not what I'm getting at here. So take, for example, another proprietor of a business, we'll call it a restaurant this time. They see somebody walk in who just has a really odd look about them, kind of a sullen look. That person doesn't misbehave in any way. They don't do anything mean, but the business owner does have the right and privilege to be able to tell that person, hey, we've got a special booth for you over here where you're not around other guests so you don't scare them. You doesn't have to tell them that part, right? It's a parenthetical. Or tell them, like, hey, you know what? We can't accommodate anybody else for the night tonight. We're not going to, we're capping it here. Sorry, we can't seat you. Good night. Basically, we can't serve you tonight. They have that right. if they think that there could be any kind of trouble down the road, or if they just have they're a conscientious objector, just saying like, hey, this guy's looking at people funny, they could make other people uncomfortable here. So again, a Christian bakery, who are the rest of their clients? It would just be supposed that the rest of their clients would be like the patrons at that other example I gave. Again, do I sound like I'm justifying this a little bit? I don't think I am. You guys tell me down in the comments how badly has your opinion changed of me so far. In a sex education class, the students are asked to inflate a condom with their mouth. Yeah, totally not okay. Again, eye bleach, please. Biakuas, you don't need to inflate them before they're put on. First off, that's just poor form. So if you want to show kids how to use them, that's not how they're used. And it's obviously degrading to force developing young people, teenagers and tweens and such, to put their lips on a condom. That's just gross. That's just wrong. So, yeah. When Lily tells her classmate Sue that it's her dream to be prom queen, Sue laughs out loud and says, "You're too ugly for that." Sorry, I can imagine Sue doing it. She's pretty mean, isn't she? Sue. All right, Sue. Nasty, nasty friend. You're not really a friend, are you? Sue. All right, so you're too ugly for that. Yeah, I mean, socially, it's not okay. Again, I'm going to look at some nuance here. What I wonder about Sue is, does Sue have like Tourette's or something, right? Like, does she have some kind of developmental disorder that prevents her from being able to say the socially appropriate thing, right? Maybe I've just been living around people with special needs for too long, or been around special needs populations too much. And so you kind of think about that occasionally. It's like, all right, consider the source, whatever. That person can't control what comes out of their mouth, but it's not okay, right? Not okay. Not going to say it's totally not okay, though. There may be some times also where laughing and saying that is like exactly the right kind of dunk that a friend would do to another friend, right? Like, think of that. This is maybe more of a guy thing, right? Maybe not a lot of girls joke with each other this way. Maybe there's a bit of ego involved there between women, and but I don't know, right? Like, you tell me that in the comments. But we all have that friend. Most dudes have that friend that would absolutely say something like that to us when we get too vulnerable with them because they're trying to toughen us up, and then make it funny, and we actually totally laugh about it, and we become closer, right? So I'm not going to say it's totally not okay, right? Again, we need to take things like this a little less directly, a little less hard. A man sets up an unlicensed medical practice, but makes all of his customers sign a contract acknowledging that he is not a licensed physician. This is also framed in a very interesting way, very unique way, and I think that this question's kind of bogus in a way, right? It's kind of bogus. So it's like saying unlicensed medical practice. What do you mean? Do you mean this person's offering to be a civil surgeon? Like, they're offering to literally like cut people open and clean out a staph infection or something, or like sew somebody's finger back on if they had a work-related injury, got hit by a forklift or something and like severed their part of their hand. Like that's obviously requires a medical license, medical training, and requires a civil surgeon's designation, right? So, but if they're talking about something like, say, iridology, which is not a science, by the way, it's not a science, but iridology, which isn't a science and it's not a medical science, but it's the whole like, taking a close-up image of the retina of the eye, and it's not exactly like witch doctor work either, but it is somewhere in between, right? It's kind of like chiropractics. Some people will tell you that it's pure quackery. Some people will tell you that it's super effective and that it like saved their life or their marriage or their dog or whatever. Like, you don't know, right? You don't know. I don't know, frankly, how to classify stuff like that, but I'm very, very hesitant to call people who do alternative medicine quacks. And I'm even more hesitant to call people who do alternative medicine unlicensed medical professionals when they do alternatives to medicine. My dad had cancer for 13 years. He survived prostate cancer for 13 years. He was totally an outlier. And part of the way that he sought treatment, I mean, yeah, he did do chemo at one point, but that was basically towards the end, and it didn't really extend his life. It just made him pretty miserable by the end. The way that he dealt with it early on was through some alternative means, largely through diet. So I kind of wonder about that. So I struggle with this one. I mean, people do sign that. I think it's fine. Though I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's always okay, because there are a lot of really sick people out there too who'll take advantage of anybody who they can get to sign a contract. So, but yeah, I'm leaning on the side of okay. In sex education class, we go to sex education class in this quiz a lot, don't we? The students are taught that since the sexes are equal, the girls should sleep with as many guys as they want without fear of being considered sluts. Oh, guys, I'm going to have you're going to call me a prude on this one. I have a very unique take on this, and, whatever. You can call me anything with regards to this. It's not like I haven't heard it, my entire life. But, I really think that a lot of people should be more considerate of the number of partners that they have. They really should. Because there's a point at which, you have to, maybe you don't have to explain that to the person that you're with in the future, but then it begs the question, how are you going to build any kind of foundation of trust with that person if there are questions that they know they can't ask you because they won't get the truth? Think about it. It's not even a sexuality issue. It's not even a health issue. It's a trust issue. It's a confidence issue. It's an interpersonal relationship issue. Your future self needs to have that investment of self-esteem in itself, in him or herself. So I don't know. This is a tough one for me because I think that this is not okay. I really don't. I don't think it's a competition either. I really don't think there should be some kind of like an arms race to see which of the genders can rack up as many notches as possible on their belt. So again, not going to go all in on that one, but I'm just going to say I don't think it's okay. Jack and Will are classmates. Will's father is a lawyer. When he picks up Will from school, he refuses to say hi to Jack's father because he is only a janitor. Ha ha ha! Ha ha! Janitor! Ha ha! I cannot say hello to thee. That's kind of messed up, right? That's kind of messed up. But, it's weird. I'm really conflicted on this one because at least it's honest. If that's his genuine worldview, at least he's being honest about it. It makes him an a-hole, right? Obviously makes him an a-hole. And again, don't make me defend Trump. Hashtag don't make me defend Trump. But one thing that you see a lot about Donald Trump that does speak volumes about his character is the dude will shake almost anyone's hand. Almost anyone that has rendered some kind of service to him. And that's, I think, a sign of people who are serious about getting ahead in the world. So whatever, if you're a high-powered lawyer, a high-powered attorney, and you don't know how to shake the hand of somebody like Jack's dad, who's a janitor. I heard a really good interview with Patrick Bet-David this morning. And Patrick Bet-David, he brought up the example of a guy who walked into was it Patrick Bet-David? It was an interviewer. Walked into the investment firm, or the firm the office that he was working at the time, and they had a bunch of brokers there and a bunch of people who managed a lot of wealth, right? And this guy walked in with cut off sleeves, Harley Davidson parked outside, tats all over each arm, right? So he had a full sleeve, both arms, a lot of ink, and he walked in there and said, I'm looking for somebody to manage my accounts. And he said it in a kind of a rough way, like he wasn't a particularly educated guy. And he went from one side of this office to the other and tried to get some direction. And one of the new kid who didn't have any accounts said, yeah, sure, man, I'll work with you. Let's talk. Let's see what you have. Turns out this guy had literally just inherited $50 million from a relative who had passed away. So this junior person at this firm had $50 million under management in one deal because he didn't prejudge. So I don't have a whole lot of respect for people who think that they can turn their nose up at other folks who are of a lower station, right, and don't have as fancy a job. And that I really love that story that I heard this morning. So I figured I'd recount that one. But yeah, Jack's father, who's only a janitor, I'm going to say that's it's not okay. Not okay. Some men have a private all-male club, and feminists take them to court, demanding that they open it up to women. This is stupid. This is stupid. If you have to use the state, if you have to use legal means to be included in a club, why do you really think you're going to be comfortable there after the state forces it open for you? I mean, I'm not talking about public utilities. Again, we'll go back to that question from before. I'm not talking about a public utility like a school or any kind of like city offices, literal utility buildings, or parks, or Bureau of Land Management Affairs, like public lands, right? Federal lands, anything else. I'm not talking about that sort of thing, but I'm talking about a private club. Will you really feel comfortable at a private club once the state had, like, once you've been able to sue and obtain entry? No, that's dumb. That's dumb. Again, I'm not going to say go all the way there, but I just don't think it's a good look. Guys, I'm going to quickly check to see who all is here right now. Oh, hey! Thank you for being here, everybody. Go ahead and sound off in the comment section if you'd like. I thought it was just Faded and me chatting for a while, but really appreciate that. It says, Emma and Cindy are summer interns at Chris's office. Emma does slightly better than Cindy. At the end of the summer, there's only one job opening, but Chris gives it to Cindy because he finds her more attractive. Yikes. Yikes. Yikes, 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 yikes. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we all know this is wrong, right? We all know this. Can we all agree this is wrong? It's the wrong thing to do. Can we also all agree that it's just going to keep happening? Yeah, it's just going to keep happening. So I'm going to say it's not okay, but I'm not going to get so emotionally invested in it that I let it tear me down. Tim asks his father for permission to stay out late because his classmates are throwing a party. When his father refuses, Tim slams the door in his face. Well, there's a bit of nuance here as well. So, I mean, if Tim is whatever, he's a 5-year-old kid, yes, totally inappropriate, and depending on the era of, humanity and child rearing, probably grounds for getting a paddling, right? Little Timmy. If he's 12, probably grounds for him to be spoken to very sternly, very sternly. And if he's a bit older than that, sort of like, hey, them's fighting words, them's fighting actions. Why would you behave that way towards a grown man? Not okay. Yeah, definitely not okay. But there probably needs to be a little more context there, so I'm just going to say not okay. New action figure becomes all the rage among the boys in Timmy's class. When Timmy's parents get to the store, they buy all of the action figures for Timmy, leaving none for the other children. That is okay. We live in a capitalist society. They can buy it somewhere else. And if they can't buy it somewhere else, then they'll figure it out. Good grief. They're not Beanie Babies. Maybe they are. Maybe they are Beanie Babies. But I don't know. Tell a little story here. My wife and I, we've been prompting our kids over the last couple of years, if they really like a Lego set, for example, to pick up 2 because they're limited edition for the most part. I think that Lego is starting to factor in some of the resale market now, and so their supply is not quite the same as it used to be. But that's just smart. If you think that you have something of value, pick up as much as you can reasonably get your hands on. I don't see the point in hating people over stuff like this, right? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, Ray the Muss. Yeah, hold the action figures. Here's the thing, man. Like, stuff like that, there are all kinds of crazy markets, right? Sneakerheads, gearheads, people have limited edition anything, right? Even now these new NFTs, right? So, in biology class, a human hand preserved in a jar is passed around among the students. Why wouldn't this be okay? Did it mean like physically pass, like spiral across the room, like whoa, like if you missed it, like you get whatever, like the stubby end of like a radius and an ulna in your mouth or something? Because that'd be gross. That would just be gross, right? Like somebody's severed hand, like hitting you, like flopping in your face. That'd be gross. But I don't think it's wrong because, and they're also like whatever. They're not like cannibals. They're not trying to eat it or something. So yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it is macabre for sure, but I don't think it's morally wrong. Especially if what they're referring to is they're handing it from one student to the next in the jar. There's not a whole lot of detail here. That's what I can surmise is happening because having gone through the public education system here, that's the sort of experience that I've had where it's like, okay, we're going to respectfully take a look at this thing, and there you go. Um, Loot Patient is asking what's my thought on NFTs. Well, we're gonna talk about that really soon, and I think on the Monday show when we go live, we'll have a lot more. So we'll talk about that soon. Dan turns up the TV just as his father is talking about his military service. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. So what we don't have as background here is the number of times that Dan's father has been talking about it. We don't know what his military service entailed. We don't know if he was a veteran. We of like action, right? If he saw overseas action, we don't know if he was involved in conflict, veteran of any kind of a war, or what conflict or war he was a part of. I mean, growing up, the age that I am, I'm not that old, but growing up, I knew people who were Vietnam vets, and they were still young enough to be interesting, right? At that time, you could talk to them, and they weren't like ancient or whatever. And yeah, it's tough to know what somebody's been through, but listening is always better than not listening, right? And just drowning somebody else's voice out, it's a sign of disrespect. It always is. It always is. But again, I'd want to know the nuance in this case. Like, if it's his dad, has he heard his dad repeat things that are maybe damaging to his own dad's psyche? Is he maybe trying to do something merciful for his dad by preventing him, through his words, from reliving serious trauma? It's a stretch, I know. It's a stretch. I'm going to say it's generally not okay, but because they make it about this father-son dynamic, I wonder if there's more to it than that. That, and I also not my personal relationship here, but my wife has a friend whose father was a Vietnam vet and was seriously disturbed to the point at which it absolutely destroyed the marriage, and he had to remove himself from his family because he perceived that he could become a threat to them. So there's just so much nuance here. I'll say though that especially when it comes to military service, and especially our vets, people who've been involved in foreign wars and who've seen serious action and have trauma, we've all got to do better at listening. We've all got to do better at discerning, right, what needs to be listened to, and what needs to be encouraged, and how to interact with people, get to know people, right, and get to be a resource for them. Like, it's incumbent on all of society, right? Same is true of anybody who's suffered serious trauma. But the beautiful thing about our veterans, and the beautiful thing about people who've served in the military, is that we know, right? We know there's a clearly defined limit and container to the experiences that they may have had that brought upon them trauma. So, yeah. Ray brings up a great point in the comment section. He says we need to treat all the vets with respect in light of the sacrifice. Totally agree. I totally do. So I'm going to say it's not okay. I wish that I knew more about the situation, but not okay. A group of parents concerned about their children's risk of obesity demand that the local store stop selling extra large sized candy bars and soft drinks. Good job, parents. Why don't you just actually give them some incentive and teach them how to not shove those things in their faces? Yeah. I'm going to say it's not okay. Because what about the other people in the neighborhood who like buying extra large size candy bars and breaking them in half to share with their kids because they figured out how it's supposed to be done. Yep, shots fired. I do not respect people who do this. Sarah's dog has 4 puppies. She can only find a home for 2 of them. So she kills the other 2 with a stone to the head. You know, that seems reasonable. Not. Good grief. Again, pass the eye bleach. While on a live on-air TV show, a man kills a baby rabbit with a knife. Why are these 2 back to back? We were doing so good, guys. We were doing so good. Yeah, it'd be one thing if it's a full-grown rabbit and he's trying to harvest the meat or prove some kind of a point. But this is very clearly like when they bring up that it's a baby animal, right, or a puppy or whatever. Like obviously it's out of malice or a maladjusted brain, right? These people are defective. Not okay. Not okay. Boop. Yeah, Ray asks in the comment section, does he eat the rabbit? Maybe he does. Maybe, I mean, it's like venison. Maybe there is something, or maybe it's like venison. Maybe there's some special quality to the younger meat, but I don't know. I think it's probably a stretch. The head of a public department says that none of her employees are allowed to smoke at all, not even in their free time. Well, I don't think that it would matter whether they're head of a public department or a private department. If you make a unilateral decision that none of your employees are allowed to smoke, none of your previously employed or currently employed employees are no longer allowed to smoke in their free time, you can definitely, I don't know, you'll definitely run the risk of, losing good people because there are plenty of good workers who have all kinds of habits and have made all kinds of life decisions, right, with regards to smoking or not smoking. But because it's a public department, no, definitely not okay. Categorically not okay. You can't just make a unilateral decision like that. A private company, you can make it like a rule violation to smoke, which would be the same, saying that you're not allowed to do it. But you might have to, it'd be like a dress code or grooming rule, like saying men can only have a mustache that's shaped, it's really, really thin and squiggly, like Wario, or Waluigi. If that's the rule, right, that everybody has to have all the dudes have to have a mustache like that, you got to give them time, right? You have to adjust to that rule. When Kelly asks Steven out on a date, he sneers and says, like I'm going to date a woman who looks like my overweight bulldog. Ha 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 ha. Bro, I totally burned that girl. I add that part. I mean, I think I did. It's in there, the subtext. You saw it too, right? So obviously not okay, man. It's like that example of the kid that called the homeless person a loser. You don't need to say stuff like that. It's just unnecessary. And I'll give you a couple of reasons that it's not okay. It's not okay because you're hurting somebody else. It's not okay because that person very likely already knows their station in life or whatever. And it's not okay because it's just unnecessary, right? Like, what is that old saying? Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? It's something like this, like it might be true, but it's definitely not kind and it's definitely not necessary. Like at least get 2 of those 3, right? At least get 2 of those 3. So this guy Steven is a bit of a jerk. Not okay. Just I don't want to say it's categorically not okay. Tina promises her dying mother that she'll visit her grave once a month. After the mother has passed away, Tina finds it hard to squeeze in the time and her visits drop to about once a year. Ooh, guys, talk to me in the chat. Guys and gals, talk to me in the chat. If you've lost a loved one, you've dealt with this, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, it's really, really hard. And those visits, I mean, I'm a person of faith, but those visits are not for the one who passed away. Because physically, at least, they're they don't have a corporeal form to go and visit, right? They're the place we remember them is the grave. Realistically, that visit is for you, right? That visit is for you. That visit is for the family. That visit is for the friends. So It's not wrong. It's not wrong to adjust that schedule. What I will say is that it's important to live with integrity, and it's important to try to offer those things that you can actually do and not overpromise when you know that it's something that you can't deliver. So I'll say it's not okay in that respect, but I don't know that I don't know that it's wrong either. Like I think it's probably just fine, right? This is okay. It's okay because those who are left behind also need to they need to heal, right? There's pain associated with that, especially here, right? Losing a parent. When you lose a parent, that's a special kind of loss. It's tough, guys. That's tough. To anybody who's lost a parent, that's really hard. So, yeah, I'm gonna say it's okay. I'm not gonna slide it all the way to the extremes, but it's okay. It's okay. Tina can forgive herself, and I think that her dead mother already forgave her. I think she's okay. Jane's boss calls all of his employees Jane. His. Jane. I'm just confused because I always think of Jane as a female name. But Jane's boss calls all of his employees by their first names, but does not allow any of them to call him by his first name. When Jane insists that it must be a two-way... Oh, got it. No, Jan. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm so dense right now. I'm so tired. So, yeah, the boss is a dude. Jane is a lady. When Jane insists that it must be a two-way street, he fires her. Well, here's the thing. If it's a private business, he can set whatever rule violations he wants. And if she's working for a megalomaniac or a sociopath, then it's probably better off for her in the end that she got fired or that she just moved on, right? Hey, Greg, I see you in the comments section. He lives, still kicking. Good to see you. But if she got fired, I mean, we know it's not okay. Again, it's like that other one. It's like the hiring stuff, the HR stuff. We know it's not okay. We know, like when we see it, we know it's not okay. And we know it's going to keep happening. I'm going to put it there on the not okay side. But we all know, like you got to know better than to work for people who are going to behave this way and enforce arbitrary rules that make you crazy, right? So move on. Next. A pair of parents read about the exotic delicacies of Africa and the Far East. In the coming week, they serve dog meat to their children. I want to say dog meat is illegal to consume in the United States. Maybe it's not. Hey, Sweet says that is dog meat illegal to consume in the United States? What? Dog meat. You can't consume canine meat here, can you?
I don't know about the legality. I mean, it's not common, but I don't know if it's illegal.
Right. Well, it's inhumane. You can't. Well, you're not permitted to kill a dog. Guys, you know what? Tell me down in the chat. We don't know. Yeah, my wife and I both don't know. But I want to say that there are like pet protection laws that prevent any like civilians from killing canines. I thought that you had to kill them humanely, like in a facility, right? So you can't just like go and bludgeon a dog in the street or whatever. I thought there were laws about this sort of thing, so I thought it was illegal, right? But if it is legal to obtain dog meat in the United States, yeah, Ray asks, was the dog ethically sourced from sustainable sources? Here's the thing, man. Dogs are totally sustainable, right? Like if you dogs and cats both, right? Like if we let them just breed wild and go feral, like good grief, we'd have more of them than we'd know what to do with, right? But as far as like finding a source where it's legal to obtain dog meat, I'm just gonna, guys, you're gonna look at me differently, but I'm gonna say it's okay. I'm gonna say it's a strong okay. A strong okay. I know, that's really sad. It's really, really sad. I know you're looking at your Labradoodle right now and thinking like Seth would eat you. And in these days, 2020, the way the world is going, don't be shocked because, yes, that's true. If it came to that, I would. If I absolutely had to. My wife was looking at me funny. So I don't think it's wrong. I think if it's legal, I don't think it's wrong to, especially with your kids, to give them certain kinds of different international experiences. So if you can source it in an ethical way, right? That is the thing, ethical and legal way. Yeah, I'm talking about dog meat,
I thought you were talking about cannibalism.
not cannibalism. No,
I was terrified.
no, no. I'm not gonna go full Alex Jones on you guys. Yeah, I would never eat a human, and here's why, guys. Crutchfield-Jacob disease. It's a real thing, right? Prion disease. Like when you eat other humans, prions are they can accumulate in your body. The same is actually true of some other animals as well, including pigs, right? So careful with pork too. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with this right here, guys. Amy and Maya are coworkers. One day, Amy offers Maya to take one of her shifts. No strings attached. Sometime later, Amy could really use someone to fill in for her, but Maya doesn't feel compelled because Amy's original offer had no strings attached. Um, this is kind of tough, right? This kind of proves that Maya is not possessed of social grace, or she's maybe a little bit of a user, right? Yeah, Faded is jumping back. He's commenting on the Crutchfield-Jacob disease and prion disease. Yeah, Mother Nature does have really strong ways of warning you not to eat certain things. And for humans, the strong way that you're taught that Mother Nature teaches you not to eat other humans is things like Crutchfield-Jacob disease, mad cow disease. It's related. Have you ever heard of it? Nasty stuff. So Amy and Maya. Yeah, this is a tough one, right? Like you can take things at face value, but this is where relationships are built, right? The opportunity here is um, like it should feel like something special to Amy if Maya does do it. But if she actually thinks that she's obligated because she offers one of the shifts, then there's a problem there. And this is a big thing that I struggle with in terms of I've got private answers in DMs coming in on the dog meat question because we have some international travelers. So I'm looking forward to reading some of that. Like I'd love to look it up right now, but I won't embarrass anybody. That's awesome. So yeah, I think there's a bit of a problem here socially when people say things like, "Oh, no strings attached," but they don't really mean it, and then they think that something is owed to them when they say "no strings attached." When they say like, "Oh yeah, I won't, expect anything." Choose your words carefully. Choose what you offer carefully, and choose what you take carefully, and choose what you offer carefully, because this is where friendships or professional relationships are built and strengthened, is by somebody offering something genuinely, and then receiving something genuinely, and offering something that they didn't have to offer, but they do anyway. Like real, that's where the magic happens. So, yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine. Don't tell her she has to. Bob and Pam are siblings. Bob is given $10 by their father and is told to distribute it between them as he likes. Bob gives $1 to Pam and pockets the 9 himself. Oh, dear. Oh. Again, we know it's wrong, right? When we see it, we all know it's wrong. And we all know that stuff like this happens in families, especially especially when it comes to certain favorites that are played by parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins, right? Like the favorite gets the lion's share and they get a lot of discretion on how they distribute it, which is why they maintain the lion's share. This just happens, guys, right? It's really not okay, but the more you get upset about it, the less you can function in the world. All right, let's finish this mug up. Do. You. All right, let's take a look. Wow, I'm more caring than a left-leaning liberal. I'm more fair than a libertarian. I'm less loyal than a conservative. I'm less loyal than anybody. Dang. I'm more authoritarian than a liberal or a libertarian. I'm more interested in purity, apparently, than a libertarian. And I'm more interested in liberty. And I'm about as interested in liberty as a libertarian. So, wow. I'm 94% on the caring schedule, or on the caring chart. Care Bear stare! Light beaming from my chest, apparently. I don't believe it, but okay, that's what they say. Wow. Strongest moral foundation is care. My morality is closest to that of a conservative. Interesting, because I do kind of identify myself as something of a libertarian. I'm definitely somebody who's right of center on some issues, but strongly left of center on others. So there's a lot that it didn't really ask, and there's a lot that I know was more nuanced. And you guys heard me talk about it. Chaotic good, Faded says. I'm on the chaotic good quadrant. Greg wonders what I did. I'm too caring. Oh geez. All right, let's take a look. So explanation of the moral foundations. Care. Let's start there. Why not? Because it's high on the list. Let's see. Fairness. Oh, they broke it down already in order of. No, they didn't. Whatever. Care. Its foundation pertains to our mammalian need to care for our young and to form bonds of attachment to others. It underlies the virtues of kindness and nurturance. Is nurturance a word? It must be. And is tied to emotions such as protectiveness and compassion. Left liberals typically score the highest on this dimension. Conservatives, the second highest, and libertarians, the lowest. Fairness. This foundation pertains to our ability to maintain cooperative and mutually beneficial relationships and underlies the virtues of honesty, justice, and dependability. It's tied to emotions such as gratitude, anger, and guilt. Left liberals typically score higher on this dimension than conservatives and libertarians. Let's take a look at fairness. Fairness. No, I scored rather low, actually. I scored a little bit lower than conservatives, even. I don't know what that means. My next one was purity. Right? Wait. That's so funny. Right, my next highest score was purity, so let's jump to that. Says this foundation pertains to our species' need to avoid disease and parasites. It underlies the phenomenon of cultural taboos and fuels the commitment to live in a manner that abstains from indulgence and sensory desires. It's tied to emotions such as sanctity, piety, and disgust. Conservatives typically score higher on this dimension than left liberals and libertarians. All right, next highest score is loyalty. Oh, no, that's not true. Oh, no, that was totally backwards. Liberty. Derp. Go to liberty. This foundation is related to the individual's need to be his own master and to avoid the dominant social mores. That's, mores imposed by the group. It underlies the virtues of independence and autonomy. It is tied to emotions such as self-sufficiency and defiance. Libertarians typically score the highest on this dimension. Conservatives the second highest, and left liberals the lowest. I feel very conflicted because according to this chart, I'm higher in care than a liberal, and I'm higher in liberty than a conservative or possibly even a libertarian. Dude. I'm scared. I'm getting scared. Authority. I'm pretty high on authority, though. That's the thing. That is something that... Yeah. Let's take a look at that. I didn't expect that right away. Wait. Where is authority? There it is. This foundation was shaped by humanity's long history of bonding together in hierarchical social interactions. It underlies the virtues of respect for tradition. Yeah, Greg says in the comment section, we should all take this test. And you are right. I've placed a link in the, not in the comment section, but I placed a link in the description of this video down below. So go ahead and open up a tab. Find out, right? So underlies the virtue of respect for tradition and deference to legitimate authority. It is tied to emotions such as fear, respect, and awe. Conservatives typically score higher on this dimension than left liberals and libertarians. Yeah, I don't much care for this entirely, but at the same time, like, you know, I think everyone's allowed to be a mix of whoever they are and make their own choices, right? Again, there's the liberty guy in me talking for sure, saying that I have the liberty to believe in authority to the level that I believe in it, right? So let's see. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. It is so bad. Yeah, so authority and fairness, we talked about that. And then loyalty, it says I score the lowest. So loyalty. Where are you? This foundation is derived from our species' long history of living as tribes and clans, enabling us to form cohesive communities. It underlies the virtues of patriotism, bravery, and self sacrifice on behalf of the group. It is tied to emotions such as pride and a sense of belonging. Conservatives typically score higher on this dimension than left liberals and libertarians. And this, maybe I do agree with this in the way that it's explained there. Because I do find myself with a much higher degree of loyalty individually, maybe in smaller groups than in larger groups. I don't much care for humans in large groups. They do and say incredibly stupid and dangerous things. Incredibly, right? Like groupthink is such a powerful force. And I am all against it, right? I do not care for the way people behave when they get into large groups, right? Mob mentality, I just don't want to be around that. It genuinely scares me. It genuinely scares me to think that people in large groups are capable of immediate and violent cruelty towards the individual if they don't think that person is loyal enough. Maybe this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, but yeah, when tribes believe that there's a tribes person who isn't loyal enough, that person gets ejected. You see like violence that takes place in socially and in religious homogenous groups, religiously homogenous groups and populations. Man, people getting stoned, people getting murdered in the streets, people being dragged around, like their dead carcass being dragged around behind horses and cars and stuff. People do terrible things to those that they don't believe belong. That should freak anybody out, right? It really should. And it really should signal to anybody that humans are like really dangerous. So yeah, I really do like this chart is showing. I really do think that I care for individuals and small groups and small clans. But as far as larger tribes, I struggle to believe that I should care about what the collective good would be for me falling on my sword, right, or jumping on a grenade. I don't think that that really large groups actually care enough about me to even measure my sacrifice, let alone really care about it. So I do kind of struggle with that quite a bit. Yeah. Oh, Greg's mentioning in the comment section. Yeah, some simian societies, not bonobos, right? It would be some other species, but the outcast literally gets torn apart, and their guts are thrown everywhere. Yeah. No, I know. It's something else, But I don't know. I guess I always hope that humans will be right. They'll just be above that, intellectually above that, and that they'll be willing to create unique bonds. We'll say unique bonds. I don't think that they have to create anything special, but like, yeah, crazy. Take a look at their explanation of political groups. They say left liberalism, individuals in this group seek to uphold individual liberty while taxing the market to provide social benefits for those in need. They tend to see themselves as seeking balance between individual liberty and social justice to be in favor of multiculturalism, secular government, and international cooperation. While they are typically skeptical of state involvement in social affairs, they nevertheless see a legitimate role for the state in combating discrimination and ensuring equal treatment. Left liberals typically have a care and fairness-based morality. Let's see. Oh, dear. Yeah. Yeah, where I regress a little bit here is on the fairness side. And it's like, this is just weird, man. Just weird. On one very key metric for liberalism, I score really high, but then on several other key metrics for stuff that is libertarian and conservative minded, it's neck and neck. Weird. Conservatism. Individuals in this group, see what their explanation of it is. And again, I don't know that I fully agree with their explanation of liberalism per se. I think that my personal take on it is that the world has, the current form of left liberalism is much more about individuality and about individual exceptionalism, more so than it is about actual liberty, like actually being able to do and say things that are unique and that push the state of the art, as opposed to just saying whatever the heck somebody feels like at any given moment because they basically, they've had their ADHD or their Tourette's encouraged and enabled by society. I think that's a bit of a problem. I think there definitely is. It's gone too far, and it's really more about individual exceptionalism, not so much about actual individual liberty per se. My take on it. So I think this explains a little bit about maybe what they're thinking there. So I think it's off. Conservatism. Individuals in this group seek to retain the traditional social and economic order and to uphold the sovereignty of the state. They tend to see themselves as the defenders of what their forebears would have wanted, favoring strict immigration laws, traditional values, and a strong military. While they typically see a role for the state in matters of national security and culture, they tend to be more skeptical of state involvement in the economy. Conservatives typically have a balanced morality where all 6 foundations are represented in roughly equal proportions. Interesting. Yeah, Greg's saying that it feels like some of these were directly written by the opposing view. That may well be true. Libertarianism. Their definition of libertarianism is individuals in this group seek to uphold liberty as the primary political good in all respects. They tend to see themselves as staunch supporters of both personal and economic freedom and are deeply skeptical of collective plans and goals, stressing instead the principle of voluntary association and the individual's capacity to make his own judgments. I agree with this largely. They typically see less of a role for the state than individuals in the other 2 groups, believing instead that the spontaneous social order of the market. Libertarians typically have a liberty-based morality. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Alrighty. Theory and approach, data and findings. Guys, go ahead and feel free to read this. There are references down below. Interesting. What do you guys think? In your experience of me, does this seem accurate? Do you think this is actually an accurate representation of the guy that you know? Yeah, what do you think? Is this Seth as you know him, or is it not? What do you think? What do you think? Is that accurate? Tell me down in the description, or tell me down in the comments if you think this is actually accurate of your interactions with me personally. If you don't know me personally, or we never interacted personally, then you feel free to smash like, subscribe, or do the other thing if that's what you really feel like now, because you're like, dude, I cannot abide this individual. I cannot abide the Seth now that I know so much about him. But I found this very enlightening. Mostly, again, it told me more about the methodology, and it told me more about the mindset of the people who created the test, I think, than it did about me personally. Yes, I do value caring. Yes, I do value liberty a lot. And of course, I value, to some level, purity, probably more so than most people who have just seen me on social media realize. It is something that I value. And with authority, I don't know that I really value authority as much as I'm just kind of resigned to the fact that authority exists in the world, and so it needs to be dealt with on some terms that allow us to move forward without creating artificial conflict. So, do I think that there should be more cops everywhere? No, not necessarily. Do I think that cops need better training? Absolutely. I definitely believe in Jocko Willing's take on that. I think that cops need far more training. Because here in the United States, they don't get as much as many other countries throughout the world. So, yeah, I think that there's more nuance than just one test can tell. But you guys tell me. Just ring true of your experience with me, or not so much. Go ahead and take the test yourself, and you let me know either on Twitter, or you can follow up with a comment here. What kind of scores did you get? What did you find out? Do you feel like you actually understood something new about yourself? Do you think that tests like this actually do assist? And again, jumping back to the beginning of this video, do you feel like you understand something about your personality and potentially where there could be pitfalls for you in dark traits, in something that maybe needs to be adjusted, something that maybe you can see from some distance away could be a problem for you in the future? Did a test like this one actually help? in making your life better and making the life of people around you better, you let me know, guys. I really, really appreciate that. Really appreciate you guys being tuned in. Really appreciate being supportive. Again, this episode is brought to you by MineYour.biz. Thank you for being supportive of the new store. We have some mining gear there as well, and we are including some ASICs. We still have some. I know it's crazy, but we randomly came into possession of some Antminer L3 pluses in like flawless condition, right? They don't have like animal fur on them, is what I'm saying. Animal fur or like dander or like, literal fertilizer mixed into the fan blades. They're really clean, quite clean. So we've got some of those. We've got risers, right? GPU risers and some other stuff as well that just isn't listed there, but will be listed in the coming days. So thank you for checking that out. Thank you for ordering what you feel inclined to order, because we accept native cryptocurrency non-custodially. If you want to buy in Bitcoin, you can buy in Bitcoin. If you want to buy in Ethereum, you can buy in Ethereum. Bitcoin Cash, Dash, Litecoin, Monero, again, a truly private cryptocurrency. And we're working on supporting Z-only addresses for coins like Zcash and like Pirate Chain in the near future. So thank you so much for checking those out. Guys, I really appreciate your support. You're the reason that I make this media. I love your face, guys. I love your face. And I will see you in the next one.